Since one of the major goals of the Gaza war was to stop the rockets, I was personally surprised that the IDF didn't reoccupy the Philadelphia corridor and expand it to stop the smuggling. Because now we're in a situation where the smuggling continues and there will be another round at some point. So could you talk about the decision about reoccupying that or not?
Well, militarily, I don't think it's a problem to occupy that corridor, but the problem is not necessarily, or not only with the corridor, because you have an adjacent city called Rafah with 140,000 inhabitants, and if you occupy only the corridor and you don't deal with the city of Rafah, then you do not solve the problem. So the...
you mean on both sides of the border?
No, I mean on the Palestinian side of the border. I'm not talking about Egypt. I mean the Palestinian Rafah, because you could occupy that narrow strip of land, that corridor on the Palestinian side, but they will have underground tunnels from the city of Rafah to Egypt, so that won't solve the problem. In order to solve the problem, you have to deal with Rafah itself. That's a major undertaking. I mean, it's doable, but again, you would have to commit forces, you would have to be there for a long time, and for the considerations I outlined, at least for this round of fighting with Hamas, we decided not to do it. Maybe in the future we will have to do it. If, for example, we will come to the conclusion that Egyptian efforts are not enough, and we'll be faced with the threat of rockets reaching Tel Aviv, and maybe in a future round we'll have to do it. But as I said, and for the reason I outlined, this time we decided not to do it. It's more complicated than just looking at this narrow strip of land.
Thank you. Barbara?
Hi, Barbara Slavin from the Washington Times. Could you give us your sense of the Obama administration's non-proliferation policy and how it impacts Israel's nuclear program? Obama, several of his officials have suggested that Israel should join the NPT. He supports a fissile material cutoff treaty, which could oblige Israel to open up its facilities to inspection. And, of course, the Iranians in negotiations are making it very clear that they will bring up U.S. support for Israel's nuclear program as part of the negotiations. And if you could also tell us how many nuclear weapons Israel has, that would be great, too. Thank you.
And while you're at it, the bombing coordinates in Natanz, perhaps.
Well, before I answer in detail, I'll be very brief. All I want to say is that I don't know enough about the policy of this administration to make a judgment. And secondly, we've never threatened to wipe anybody off the map.
Fred Lafer on my left. Could you wait for the mic, Fred, right behind you.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Two questions which are in a difficult area. Maybe you can comment. Number one, there's a lot of concern that's growing, at least in the U.S., not just about Iran having the bomb, but Pakistan with the bomb and how that's controlled, and what does that mean to Israel if it falls into difficult hands? And also, second question, can you see a time when Israel should be preparing for a north and south defense, that the war will come both sides? I mean, there were reasons why Hezbollah didn't act in the latest undertaking, but there could be a time if there's a second undertaking, as some people think may happen in the north. Could you see it coming from the south too? And what does that mean? Nothing.
Okay, on Pakistan, naturally we are very concerned about developments there. I feel that we don't know enough about what's going on inside Pakistan to make a clear judgment. And when I say we, I understand that even the US doesn't have enough knowledge about the physical location of all the nuclear sites in Pakistan. So let's say if Pakistan melts down, what exactly is the U.S. going to do? I have no answer to this question. And it's a serious question. If the Pakistan nuclear arsenal falls into the hand of Islamists, I think many of our worst scenarios concerning Iran could materialize. This could certainly spark a nuclear arms race in the region. I think if the Iranians see that a neighbor, a Sunni extreme Islamist regime, holds nuclear power, and they'll probably accelerate their pace in this regard, and then many others will follow in the region. I don't know what India will do. Currently, as I said, there are more questions than answers, but again, I don't know enough to make a judgment, a specific judgment, to what extent the threat is real, what's the time frame for it materializing, if at all, and so on. Regarding your second question, I think one of the strategic successes of Israel over the last decade, at least, was that we managed to avoid fighting a war on two fronts. When we had the Intifada, the second Intifada, we managed to keep the situation quiet vis-a-vis Syria and Hezbollah. They fired a few rockets and so on, but I think we kept it relatively quiet. When we had our operation in Gaza, the same. I mean, the situation was quiet in the West Bank, in our northern border, I think due to the deterrence we achieved in 2006. Having said that, as military planners, we have to plan to all eventualities, and we are planning for a situation where we may have to fight in more than one front. Yes, certainly.